Hi everybody, let's get started on today's lesson. Today we are continuing with Unit 5, Week 2 from our reading series. The first part of today's lesson is all about cause and effect. We're going to talk about how finding the characters, setting, and plot within a story, how those elements can help you find cause and effect relationships. Our objective for the lesson says students will be able to identify cause and effect relationships in a passage. So, what is cause and effect? Does your teacher ever ask things like, what is the cause and effect in the reading? On a piece of paper, I want you to write down what you think the definition of cause is and what you think the definition of effect is. If you don't have a piece of paper handy, pause the video now and go grab one. If you do have paper handy, still go ahead and pause the video and then write down cause equals and effect equals on your piece of paper so that you know what you think before I show you the answers. After writing down your cause and effect definitions, you might have said something like this. Cause is an event or action that makes something happen. And you might have said the effect is what happens as a result of the action or event. In my mind, I think the effect is what happens, the cause is why it happened. Story elements like the setting and characters' thoughts can play an important role when determining an event's causes and effects. Take a look at this picture. The effect is the town flooded. But what could the cause be? Think about it for a second. What could have caused that town to flood? If you said something like a really large rainstorm, or maybe a hurricane came into the area, or maybe a dam or a levee close by broke and the water rushed out and flooded the town, those could all be possible causes. In this picture, you see a boy sitting on the steps. It says the effect is the boy is sad and sits on his porch. What are some possible causes? What could be making him so sad? Maybe he doesn't have anybody to play with, and he looks like he likes baseball. Can't play baseball by yourself. Maybe he got in trouble playing baseball and broke a window out with a flying ball, and now he's in trouble. The possibilities are endless with a picture like this, but we can definitely tell that the boy is sad as he sits on his porch. We just don't know for sure what the cause of that sadness is. Let's see what our book says about cause and effect. Our book says a cause is an event or action that makes something happen. An effect is what happens because of the event or action. Identifying the cause and effect in My Big Brother Johnny Caw can help you understand characters' actions as well as the sequence of events in the plot. Let's look in our weekly story for cause and effect relationships. We're going to look at the cause and effect relationships and identify which part is the cause and which one is the effect. You're going to write your answers on the graphic organizer on page 212 in your turn practice book. So if you don't have your practice book nearby, pause this video now, grab your green Your Turn practice book, and open up to page 212. Once you have it ready, turn the video back on and we'll move to the next part. Here's a small excerpt from our story, My Big Brother Johnny Caw. I'm just going to read what's highlighted in pink. The text says, "There are territories out west with wide open spaces. The Caw family needs room to grow." At 15, Johnny had grown so tall that when he stretched out in bed at night, his head hung out the front door and his feet hung out the back door, all the way into the chicken coop, where the hens laid eggs between his toes. I'm going to take that piece from the story and find a cause and effect relationship. So on my graphic organizer from my green practice book, I'm going to say the cause from that excerpt is Johnny is very tall. They gave lots of details to describe how tall he was. The effect of him being so tall was the cause decided to move west for more room. Now I want you to pause the video and write down in your chart the cause and the effect that I just gave you. Then turn your video back on when you're ready to move to the next example. The next excerpt we're going to look at is on your screen now, highlighted in pink. The text says, "We'll never get there with these slowpokes pulling us," Johnny scoffed. He unhitched the team and put one ox on each shoulder. So now before I write in my book, I need to think, what's happening here? Like, what's the problem? And then what's the effect of that? So on my chart, I'm going to say the cause here is Johnny thinks the oxen are moving too slowly. The effect of him thinking that is he unhitches the oxen so that he can pull the wagon instead. So the oxen aren't pulling fast enough for his liking, so he pulls the wagon instead and carries the oxen on his shoulder at the same time. If you need time to write down the cause and effect from this excerpt, pause your video now and fill in your graphic organizer. Then turn the video back on when you're ready to move to the next excerpt. Now it's your turn to do some practice. I'm going to give you another excerpt from the story, and you're going to decide your own cause and effect relationship. You're going to write it on your graphic organizer, and then we'll check it. This excerpt says, "He never did have much sense of direction. He pulled that wagon one way, then the other, faster and faster, digging out the biggest gully you ever saw. The next night, a big rain came and filled it up. I hear that now they call that crooked gully the Caw River." I want you to focus just on what's underlined and see, can you decide what's the cause and what's the effect? So what happened and what caused that to happen? Pause your video now, go onto your graphic organizer and write down what you think is the cause and effect in this excerpt from our story. Once you have it filled out, you can turn your video back on. I hope you said something like this for our third excerpt. The cause is Johnny did not have a good sense of direction on their trip west. The effect of him not having a good sense of direction? He formed a gully by pulling the wagon in different directions. Now, yours do not have to be word for word like mine, But you do need to say something about the cause. Johnny didn't have a good sense of direction. And the effect, he kind of walked back and forth, forming a gully on their path. Now we have some practice time. I'm going to give you 2 practice slides that we'll do together. Then you're going to do the rest in your Google form. Here's our first practice. It says, Patty was very thirsty, so she poured herself a cup of milk. She took a quick sip from her glass. The milk had gone sour. She spit it out. What caused Patty to spit out the milk? What do you think caused Patty to spit out the milk? If I had to pick an answer, I would say Patty spit out the milk because the milk had gone sour. So the milk had gone sour was the cause, and the effect, she spit it out. Let's do another one where they ask you to find the effect. This slide says Jalen was blowing bubbles on his front porch. One of the bubbles floated slowly down to the ground. As soon as it hit the concrete, it popped. What was the effect of Jalen's bubble hitting the ground? If you were thinking the effect of his bubble hitting the ground was the bubble popped, you are correct. So the cause is the bubble hit the concrete. The effect, the bubble popped. That is the end of this part of our lesson for today, the end of part 1. Now it's time to show your understanding of cause and effect in today's Google form.